Hey guys, guess what? Looks like the Hurricanes are having a bit of an injury bug. So yeah, it's just me, Sam Wallace, again for this episode. Sam Driscoll, he is in Florida this entire week. Part of the reason why I'm holding the fort down on these two episodes this week. And did I mention Florida? Yes, I did, because he is going to be at the Florida Panthers game tonight. And obviously, as I'm recording most of this episode, I'm recording most of this before the Florida Panthers game. So, um, yeah, there is going to be quite a bit of news on the Hurricanes front. It's not the type of news that we're going to like, because Canes are suffering some injuries. But first things first, we have a link for donations. So if you feel like you want to donate to our podcast, there's a link to that in both our episode descriptions on the traditional podcast side of things and also on YouTube if you watch us through there. Remember, we are on YouTube, so if you are watching us, please hit that like button, subscribe, leave a comment. That really helps us out a ton. In fact, I think in one of our most recent episodes, someone did comment, and we want to thank that person for leaving a very generous comment. Thank you. And I mean, the most recent episode, wow, on YouTube, that the views really gone up. So again, thank you guys for taking time out of your day for listening to us for Hurricanes content. We really do appreciate that to all of you guys listening. And not just on YouTube, but also if you're listening to us on App or Spotify. Really, the time you're honestly just giving to us by listening to us, we really do thank you for that. So, yeah. And another thing, too, is before this episode happened, I mean, that episode, the last time, was last year because we had a new year happen on Wednesday, and because of that, just want to say Happy New Year to all of you fine Hurricane fans or fans of the sport or whatever that are listening to us. So yeah, Happy New Year. We hope your New Year's Day went successful. And that's kind of pretty much it. We're gonna get into some NHL news because there not a lot happened. And there's one particular news I know that has happened for quite some time, and that is the Dallas Stars made some headlines in the fact that they held an optional practice on Boxing Day, which violates the CBA agreement. For those who don't know about the CBA, it's the collective bargaining agreement made by the NHL Players Association and the NHL owners. And that's essential for obviously playing the sport in the NHL. So violating that, I mean, if you look at the fine, it's probably not that big of a deal. It's only $100,000. We've seen fines before from other teams in the league violating the CBA, and if you look at those other fines, to me, this is a little bit light compared to others. One that really sticks out for me is, I believe they were called the Phoenix Coyotes at the time. Maybe they were Arizona, but I know they were fined for, I believe, scouting players in a time where they couldn't scout the players, obviously, and they got fined some pretty good draft picks. So definitely on the lighter side of fines, but still probably don't want to get fined in general, to be honest. So another thing too, I do want to point out, and this is a team in our division, the New York Islanders, their head coach, Patrick Raw. I kind of find this interesting. He has been polling their goalie at surprising times, I would say, because, and one of them really made the headlines in the fact that the Islanders during one game, he uh, they were shorthanded and they were taking the face off in the defensive zone. And Patrick Raw, you know what he did? He was like, "No, I'm going to leave the goalie on the bench." So it's very risky. I do. I do think it's very risky. I do believe he also pulled the goalie. I think in a game against Pittsburgh, I believe a week ago. I could be wrong about the game, but he pulled a goalie. I think with like 7 minutes left, so he's taking some risk. But I don't know if those are wise risks or not. But again, I'm not a head coach, and I don't really follow the Islanders like as much as I do with the Hurricanes. But very, very, very interesting that Patrick Raw is doing this, considering he himself was a very good goalie. So that's just a couple of NHL news I wanted to give you guys there. And now we're gonna get to a lot of Hurricanes news. And some of it's good, quite a bit of it's bad, but we'll get to it. One thing I do want to give you guys an update on is the World Junior Championship, and the fact that we do have a few prospects, Bradley Nadeau, Oscar Voulet, and Felix Ungersorum are playing in it. And while I can't remember who's left in the tournament, I do know I think Germany won a game today, so they advance. But I believe they're in the quarterfinals. I could be wrong about that, but just to give you guys some stats here, Bradley Nadeau has 1 goal in 4 games. Oscar Voulet has 1 goal in 4 games. So, from what I've heard, I think Nadeau has probably been making a little bit more of an impact. And to be honest, I kind of wrote these down in my show notes, so I'm kind of hoping this stuff doesn't change. I am going to look at Bradley Nadeau's stats, though. But from what I've heard about Nadeau is that he's been playing good, and I can tell you what a great resource is. Obviously, I try to keep up with the prospects as much as I can, and as much as I can keep up with the current NHL roster for the Hurricanes. But it to me, a great source. Follow Canes prospects on X. This is not an episode where they're sponsoring or anything. I just really like their work, and they are top. And whoever's running that account is doing great things. So I really recommend you guys follow that account. And yeah, it is 1 goal in 4 games for Bradley Nadeau. Another player, Felix Ungersorum, he's been tearing it up. Like he's been doing very, very good. From what I heard on every shift that he has on the ice, like he is looking for a goal, whether it's from passing the puck or even for shooting luck, because in 4 games he has 1 goal, 5 assists, 6 points. Wow. That is very impressive. And I'm very happy for Ungerstorm because if we call up a player like him soon or even in the next year, I mean, let's talk about bringing Ungerstorm up for next year. I mean, that could save us for some cap space in order to really solve or remedy some of the issues that the Hurricanes face going into next season. Because I do think going into next season, the Hurricanes are going to have to make some choices where they're going to have to use the cap. So, Ungersorum, if he comes up, that's going to be great. I really do. I'm just kind of imagining where he would play. Probably, maybe next to Jackson Blake. I don't know if Brandon likes that or not, but we'll see what his future holds. I think his future and also Nadeau's future are, I think, pretty high on the Hurricanes list prospects. So we'll see how they continue throughout the World Junior Cup. And now we're going to get to some bad news here. Brendan Moore was asked before the game against Columbus about Gostisbehere, and he said it's going to be a while until he comes back. Now, I would say a little bit of good news is the fact that we brought up Ty Smith before the Columbus game, and he was able to score. So that's good. And now here's the thing with Ty Smith. He needs to continue playing good. Obviously, Ghost is the better player, but Smith, if he can continue to play pretty good against teams like Columbus and obviously against hopefully a team like Florida tonight. Again, I'm recording most of this episode before the Florida game. Then Smith, I mean, yeah, we're going to miss Ghost, but he's going to prove that there's not a huge void in the defensive pairs when he is called up. So we'll see how Smith does. Another thing too is apparently it's a small, I would say a small update on Jack and Drury, and the fact that because it's nothing big, but because the Hurricanes are on this road trip, from what I've heard, and again I could be wrong about this, but from what I've heard, uh, Drury is going to be reassessed once the Hurricanes get back to Raleigh. So hopefully we get some good news there. And another player got hurt for the Hurricanes. So you have Ghost out, you have Drury out, and then you have Tyson Jost out. Now, Jost, honestly, I really think for the past several games that he has played so far, he has played excellent. So with him getting hurt in that Columbus game, I was like, man, this is a guy that's really trying to prove that he is kind of that good draft pick that Colorado drafted him, I believe, that 10th overall. Now, is he ever going to be like a top 6 player? No, but he's trying to prove that he can be an NHL player, and an injury like this sucks for him because you can tell he's trying to prove it. But I like it. I like players that are playing that they're trying to prove to stay in the NHL. I wish more of our players could play like that. Um, but Jose, especially, you can tell from his performance, he's been playing like he wants to be in the NHL permanently. And it sucks that he's injured. Now, to me, what was a little bit surprising at first, I will admit, is that they didn't bring up Ryan Suzuki. Now, this was before I heard that when we brought up Yuha Yaska, hopefully I pronounced that name right, that Suzuki was ill slash hurts. I've heard misreporting about this, but if that's true, then obviously you bring Yaska up. So it's the right move if he is hurt or injured. Now, if Suzuki was totally healthy, which honestly, one of our podcast friends did point out that definitely Suzuki was out at the time of this call up of Yaska. But if Suzuki was healthy, I would bring him up because I think he has earned a spot to play on this team. He's been doing really good in Chicago. He's led the team in points. And I'm going to bring up his stats here because I do think he at least deserves a shot. Obviously, if there's an injury on on our NHL roster here, and yeah, in 26 games, Suzuki has 3 goals, 19 assists. You can tell this is a guy that likes to create plays. He likes to pass the puck, and while that's good, um, obviously you probably want a little bit more goals from him. But other than that, I mean, he's been playing pretty good. 22 points, 26 games. That's excellent. It's just unfortunate that he's out at a time where we kind of needed to call up a player with just being out. So hopefully Yasha can play good. I mean, it's hard because even with like him playing against Florida, that's just one game, and I'm never going to assess a player's performance just by their one game. To me, a good sample size usually is, I would say, probably around 5 games. So we'll see how Yaska plays against Florida. I thought he looked good in preseason, but again, I thought there were quite a few players that looked good. And there was only one player that to me really stood out, and he made the team, and that was Jackson Blake. So we'll see how Yaska does. And that's kind of the update on the injury news. Not fun to have 3 players out. Now, to me, while that sucks, at least not our star players are still playing in the likes of Svetch, Aho, Natchez, Slavin. I mean, those players, those are vital. So while we do have a bit of an injury bug, at least we're not at the point where our top of the lineup players aren't hurt. So still, we want this team to be healthy. So yeah, that's pretty much it for the injury situation for the Hurricanes. And also, with this episode coming out today on a Friday, it is the start of a new month. So I usually like to assess how the Canes played the last month. And to me, it kind of sums up what I think both Sam and I have been saying for quite some time. They've been playing good, not great. Two issues: the goaltending and the star players not producing. Those are the two issues. And hopefully, my expectation for the month of January, and hopefully for the next episode when Sam Driscoll's on, he can give us his expectations. I think the Hurricanes are due for a win streak. I do. I think if they can get a 4 or 5 game win streak going, whether it's middle of this month, beginning of this month, end of this month, they're due for it because they played average hockey this past month. And I would argue a little bit more than just this past month, because I thought we started to see those signs toward the end of November. So hopefully they have a good month of January. They really need to string together some wins. We need our star players to get going. We need now Aho, he's been putting up the points. And in fact, in the Columbus game, I thought our first line was actually pretty good, but there are a couple of star players, which again I'll get to here, that really need to take it up another level. So that's pretty much it for all the Hurricanes and NHL stuff. Now we're going to get to I recapping the two NHL games in the Columbus game and the Florida game. But before we do, let's get to a couple of our sponsors. One of the things I like about watching hockey is the physical play we get to see, which is why Game Time has a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes it easy to see your favorite team, concerts, or shows. One of the upcoming games I am looking forward to is a Canes versus Capitals game in January. And yes, that is my co-host Sam, if you heard him. They have a few super deals that are under $100 in lower level seating. That's why one of my favorite features is the super deal. Remember, you can also get a view from your seat in the app before you apply. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time Picks. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code THPN for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code THPN for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time. It's the most wonderful time of the year for getting in on all the hoops, football, and hockey action at DraftKings Sportsbook. In the season of giving, we're being gifted college football and basketball, pro football and basketball, and pro hockey too, almost 24/7. And here's a gift for all new customers. Bet $5 to get $150 in bonus bets if your bet wins. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use code THPN. That's code THPN for new customers to get $150 in bonus bets if your bet wins when you bet just $5. Happy holidays from DraftKings. The crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Blue Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas, 21 plus age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. Bet must win to receive reward. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see dkng.co/bball. All right. So, first game I'm going to be recapping is the Columbus game. And this was a game where I thought starting out, Columbus, I thought had a bit of the edge. Not much, but just a bit of the edge over Carolina. And I'm telling you, they have a player that is a Hurricanes killer in Kirill Marchenko. Boy, he has a shot. And first goal it comes from him to make it 1-0 Columbus. This was a goal where obviously you had Carrier losing a stick in the process, and he decided to go back to the bench and get a stick. The only thing is he's leaving a man wide open, I would say, because of that. And in this case, it's Marchenko who's left wide open. Now, do I like how our other players defended the high dangered area around Kachekov? Yeah, it was Kachekov that played. No, I do not. But regardless, you can't have a player that wide open on Kachekov, especially with a player that has lethal of a shot like Marchenko. He's going to score on that chance. All alone, you just cannot allow that to happen, and it's 1-0 Columbus. And then you have Ty Smith scoring from Aho and Natchez, and this was on a power play. And we can tell this power play was a power play that looked really good before Smith scored because there was a lot of pressure on the Columbus end, which is good because you're obviously on the power play. But we were also trying to get multiple chances. I believe we ended that power play with what 4 shots, so that's pretty decent. At least you're getting some shots. And Smith, he was able to kind of find an opening between, I believe, the post and the pad of Columbus's goalie, Lincoln's, and he was able to start it in. So great shot from Smith. He has definitely proven that the call up is not a mistake so far. So far. And another thing too, I do want to point out. I know there are probably some Hurricane fans that don't like the fact that Smith is probably on the first power play unit. And trust me, I didn't like that at all. But I do remember while watching the game, Trip Trip Tracy uh, made the comment in the fact that for Hurricane players, it's a little bit easier to adjust to a new player on their power play when they shoot on the same side. In this case, both Ghost and Smith both shoot left-handed. Um, as probably especially while quarterbacking the power play. So if that's what it is, then okay. Would I still probably put Burns up on the first power play? Maybe, maybe not. But if that's truly the case, to where it's harder to adjust on a power play with someone like Burns who is right-handed on his shots, then you probably do have to go with Smith because you don't really have another choice. You just don't. So it's not like you're going to put Slavin on that power play. So you don't really have much choices. So I guess after Tripp explaining that, I guess I understand why Smith is on the first power play, even though I might not be the biggest fan of it. So obviously it's tied 1-1, and then once again you have Marchenko scoring, and this was just an incident where to me, it's like we wrapped a present and we gave it to Columbus because how this goal went shouldn't have gone in. Really shouldn't have. Obviously, you have Brent Burns trying to guard Sean Monahan as Monahan is driving toward the net, and as Monahan is driving toward the net, you have Burns trying to keep up, but in doing so, he knocks down Kachekov. And Burns is a big dude, so I don't think this is an incident where Chekhov was light on his feet. I'm from the looks of the hit, I really do think Chekhov got hit because he actually got hit, not just because he was light on his feet or something. But he was down, and Marchenko was able to score it all the way from, I believe, almost toward the blue line between the neutral zone and our defensive zone, and he scores with Kochetkov still being down. He almost got the puck, but he couldn't get it. So Columbus is up 2-1. And again, this was a game where it was interesting because the other games kind of echo the statement of Kochetkov kind of being like, well, he's letting in one bad goal a game. I really don't think he played. I don't think he let in the soft goal this game. Now we'll get to the shootout, and the shootout's a totally another thing on Kochetkov. But I thought Kochetkov played very good. I don't blame him on any of those goals um, that Columbus scored. It was just us gifting them, really gifting them a goal. And to me, that was the case for the first two goals, really, because like you just can't have the defensive breakdown on the first goal, and you just like Burns needs to be a little bit more aware of Kochetkov because obviously Kochetkov, he plays. I mean, he's on his feet because he plays a little bit aggressive. So those two goals really was just very, very frustrating. So you head into the second period. Carolina's down 2-0. But to me, the second period was the best period I thought the Hurricanes played. And they were able to show for it with a couple of goals. You have Roslovic scoring from Jarvis and Aho. We got to the point where Aho was able to pass it right across the ice to Jarvis as Jarvis is coming into the offensive zone with the puck, and Roslovic it tries to get open between the defending player and the goalie. He does, and Jarvis, he makes a beautiful pass, just a beautiful pass to Roslovic. And Roslovic, he's leading this team in goals. I believe he has like 17 goals, I believe. Man, he really is doing good now. And I'm telling you, that line of Roslovic, Jarvis, and Aho is really starting to play like a first line. I thought they started to play like a first line last night because I thought they were really good. Yeah, 17 goals. So really, Roslovic is just doing really good with us. Do I still think he's probably on the same level as maybe an Aho or Jarvis? No, but he's benefit. I would say when it comes to Roslovic, do I think that he's a good player? Yes, but I would argue the way that he is performing, it's two things. One, he's showing that he's a good skater. He can shoot the puck, but he's also benefiting from the top players like Aho and Jarvis. So great line. I thought that was a really, really good line. And then you have KK scoring from Robinson, as Robinson was kind of tied up with his defenseman, but he was able to get a pass off to KK, and KK went backhand and just roofed it on Merzlikins. Great goal from KK. I hope he can build on that. Again, I think if you are a second line center, you have to produce points. So I hope KK can build on that. Again, he could score against Florida tonight, so you never know. If he does good, he needs to build off of point production because if you're a second line center, you got to get points. You just have to. Like I understand you got to get the chances, but you also have to get the points. So KK, good for getting the goal. Let's see if he can build off of this and get somewhat of a point streak going. He did score against New Jersey, so he kind of does have a couple of goals recently. So good for him. Let's keep this up because as much as I don't think as he's a second line center, I hope he proves me wrong. I really do. So we get into the third period. Carolina's up 3-2. And then to me, the most frustrating thing happens because while I thought this game was kind of like an evenly played game, I don't think much happened in the third period with either teams, to be honest. But you had Svetch taking a penalty, and it was a slash to the back. Do I think this was a soft call? Yes. I absolutely think that was a soft call. But I do also think it's callable. And another thing too, if you look at this from the side of trying to build Svechnikov's performance, he can't do that because you cannot give the refs any doubt that you're making a penalty because and listen, I hate this for Svech, but these refs, they are going to call something very light on Svechnikov because of his reputation. Do I like it? No. But Svech needs to play as if these refs might call everything on me. So he didn't there. And again, you're up against a divisional team. You're up 3-2. That's not a time to do that. It's just not. And obviously, we get on the penalty kill. And to me, this was the most unlucky goal for the Hurricanes because you have Voronikov scoring because he tries to make a pass to the other Columbus player on the opposite side of Tkachuk, and the puck hits Jarvis's skates and it goes in. Do I blame that on? Do I think that was a gift wrapped goal from the Hurricanes to Columbus? No, but again, it's just very frustrating because you look at that penalty that Svech made and like could have been a different game. It could have. So Columbus ties it 3-3, and guess what? We're going into overtime. Nothing really happens in overtime. Then you go to the shootout, and this is the second straight shootout at Columbus. And well, thankfully, Koshekov did not get hurt, unlike the last shootout game at Columbus. This was a shootout where Koshekov probably needed to be a little bit more aware of the weakness that he had with trying to stop 5-hole shots. And obviously, you have Svech scoring. To me, that was great. Svech scored. And then you have Kent Johnson coming up, and he's like, okay, Kochekov just needs to stop this. That's all he needs. He needs to stop this. But Kochekov doesn't. It's 5-hole. And, well, that sucks. Now we have to score a goal again. And I know all of us fans, I would say probably most Hurricanes fans, probably don't like the shootouts. And I understand that. Listen, I don't like the shootout either. Honestly, I would say if they extended 2 more minutes of overtime, we wouldn't even need the shootout, to be honest. Because if you had overtime at like 7 minutes, do I think that's going to happen? No, because I don't think the NHLPA is going to like that. But that's just my take on the whole shootout thing. Because again, I don't like shootouts. The Canes are just not good in shootouts in general. But I mean, you have Aho trying to score on the shootout. That didn't go. And you had Blake trying for it too. I understood why Blake went, to be honest, just because I think out of all the players that are probably good, that you would consider a good candidates of the team, I do think Blake is up there just because I think he has one of the best stick handling abilities on the team. Because he can handle that puck very, very good. So to me, I understand why Blake was on the shootout. And another thing too that I think us fans probably need to be a little bit more aware of is look at the nature of the shootouts. It's really a roll of the dice, a flip of a coin. You don't know what's going to. I mean, is there really a rhyme or reason of a player being put on the shootout? So I don't think Blake was a bad choice. Now, I do think you need to have some common sense. So I don't know if you should. So, like putting Jordan Stahl on the shootout or Eric Robinson on the shootout, I don't think those are great choices either. But someone like Blake, I do understand why Bryn Moore would put him out there because he's a very, very talented player. He just needs to get stronger. That's my big thing with Blake. He just needs to get a little bit stronger. But he's a rookie, and hopefully with time he does get stronger. Because if he does, I think Blake is going to be heck of a player. So yeah, Hurricanes lose in the shootout against Columbus. They at least get 1 point, but considering They're versing Florida tonight and Minnesota on Saturday. Probably a game you should have won. So now we're going to get to recapping the Florida game. Wow, what a game that was. And I'm not saying that made up for the Columbus game. They still should have won the Columbus game, regardless of how well they played against Florida. But that was a game where I was impressed. I would say I was impressed probably within the first half of the game, probably like the first 30 minutes, because Carolina took it up another level where they were just out skating, out hustling Florida. That was just, to me, fantastic hockey. And it was, to me, just a little bit disappointing that we only got one goal coming into the second period. Thankfully, we did get a goal, though, with Brent Burns, who I thought had an excellent game. I thought there were a lot of players that had excellent games. I thought KK had an excellent game. I thought Brent Burns had an excellent game. I thought Tkachuk was the star of the game, in my opinion. And I thought Jordan Stahl had a great game. And there was a bit of some line juggling from Rod Brindamore, but actually I did not mind it. It was Stahl playing with Netchus and Svetch, and then you had KK playing with Carrier, who's leading our team in hits, and Martinuk. And I don't mind that, to be honest, because Stahl's a big, good defensive guy. You probably could use some size there, or some edge there, defensive wise, on that second line, because Svetch hasn't really been hugely physical like we know he can be, and I just think that was just a great. I thought that was just really good for Brandon Moore to do. I know I've criticized him before about lines, but I've always thought you need to have priorities on, or you need to have, I would say, variations, not just put them into blender mode. That's why I always like to say when it comes to lines, because if you have variations, that means you have priorities. Okay, Aho's playing with Jarvis, so if we have Roslovic there, if we have Robinson there, okay, so that's what I mean by the variations thing when it comes to the lines. So I thought Brindamore did an excellent move there, putting Stahl with Svetch and Natchez, and that line did great. The KK line I thought did great. I mean, there were some bit scary moments, of course. There was the Verhage hit on Natchez. Didn't like that. And it was just it was a game that it was a very grindy type of game. Lots of hits from both teams. And to be honest, I mean, I thought Carolina, this kind of resembled a little bit of the game against New Jersey where we won. And Carolina was not going to be what I like to call the candy canes. They Carolina was being mean right back. And I really did like that. And one of their star players in Tkachuk, I would say he didn't have that good of a game, and I would say he probably costed that game for them, in which we'll get to. But Florida does tie it up, unfortunately, with Anton Lundell's scoring. It was one of those plays where it was a little bit of a breakdown as the puck was coming right behind Kachekov, and Florida was able to make a physical play. I believe it was on Ty Smith. I could be wrong, but it was one of those plays where Florida kind of outmuscled us, and Lundell was able to get a puck from a pass from one of his teammates and score to tie it 1-1. So again, very, very tight game. And I thought going into the third period, the next goal was going to be the difference just because of how tight this game was. I really did sense that heading into the third. And that was when Slavin was able to score a goal. And it was, to me, just a very, very weird goal, to be honest, because you had KK driving in to the net on Bobrovsky, and you had Tkachuk right behind him. But if you look at it, it was Tkachuk who initiated contact with KK, He made him like slide into Bobrovsky's crease, and Tkachuk just he honestly let his temper get to the best of him. I think Tkachuk is a very, very good player, but he can have a temper, and he let that got to get to the best of him. And the fact that he just kept nudging KK back to the ground, never getting him back up, and that distracted Bobrovsky, as you can see. Like he kept looking at Tkachuk trying to hammer uh KK to the ground, and then you have Slavin getting the loose puck. He scores, and to me, and while I'm not saying that that was the game, I was like, okay, that could be the game. And then obviously we were able to get that empty net goal with Svetch passing it to net just to kind of bat it into the empty net. So overall, great game. I do think as the game progressed, though, Florida was kind of getting to their form. They're really pressuring us, especially when they had the empty nets. To me, the best defensive play of the game was Chatfield saving uh, the puck from our nets and was able to get it out of the zone during that empty net chance for Florida. So great game from Carolina. I'm not saying they made up the Columbus game. They should have won it, but great win. Let's build off of this. Again, one of to me, one of the big things heading into this month is to build up a string of wins. If you can do that, then you can distance yourself maybe even more from the bottom half of, or yeah, I would say probably the bottom half of the Metro, and try to maybe get first and second place position in the Metro division, and we'll see how that goes. I saw the Rangers one. To be honest, even though I don't like the Rangers, I was a little bit happy because I want the Rangers to be in that position where they're not good enough to make the playoffs, but also not bad enough to get a good draft pick. So that was my only thing with the Rangers. So yeah, so great win. We'll see how they do against another tough team in Minnesota, and I believe Pittsburgh too, because that's on a Sunday. I think it's a back-to-back game. Yeah, it is Sunday, 6 p.m. So we'll see how Carolina does coming back home, and we will see you guys next time.